To be honest, I don't know how to charge this without shooting it.
And I fell. Bounties. But he's dead for right now, so he's gonna leave us alone now.
Alright, well, if I kill you, it's not my fault.
I don't believe that for a minute.
Oh, my armistice zone privileges are revoked.
No, it looked like I got hit by my own ship when I was getting out of the sea.
Another NPC. Yep, he's dead. Oh, no, he ran away. What's going on, everybody? I'm DarkHour717, and welcome to the next episode of State of the Verse. Obviously, we took last week off for Citizencon 2951. Hopefully, you caught all the panels for that, as well as our live stream. If not, we will have links in the description below to each of the individual panels for you to go back and check out the ones that you're most interested in. Of course, this is our weekly news show that covers everything from Star Citizen Live, Inside Star Citizen, Roadmap Roundup. And of course, this week we didn't see a Star Citizen Live or Inside Star Citizen, but there's a recap with the PU monthly report, as well as what happened at Citizencon. Of course, some other things that have occurred in the meantime. So, as always, joined here by Jay Skell. What's going on, buddy?
Not a lot. I'm enjoying playing around in 315 P2.
As I'm sure everybody is. Although a little bit buggy, but we'll get into that. And of course, we've got Bright Shadow, who was with us during our Citizencon stream. And we also have Tainted, who's here for his first time on State of the Verse. What's going on, guys?
Hey, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Greetings, everyone.
I got my trio of Guinnesses lined up here for the recording, so I am all set to go.
Is that going to be enough?
That usually gets me through one per half hour of recording that it takes. We always go over the current offers that Star Citizen has going on right now. Of course, everybody got the Citizencon goodies pack or are starting to see it get into their hangers. I just got mine last night. I know, J-Skill, you said you got yours last night, and it's been trickling in. It's been a little bit slow, but of course, that's going to have your RRS armor set, the knife, and the trophy. No way to use the trophy as a bludgeoning instrument yet, but maybe in future we might see something like that. And of course, we have the Anvil Liberator, which we're going to talk a little more in depth about a little bit further on, but that's actually available. It's going to be a large size landing craft. It's got 3 extra small size landing pads on it that you can put some flyyables on, as well as a garage for some ground vehicles. Right now, you've got a war bond that's $500 US. Also a standalone purchase of $575 in US dollars. It is also available in a multi-pack at varying prices with other ships such as the Hornet and other things like that. But you can also CCU up to it if you want the ship by itself. And then, of course, we all know the Origin 400I, which is a large vessel exploration, as billed by CIG as a competitor for the Connie or the Corsair. And that's available with a war bond with a Meridian Citizencon paint at $220. If you're concierge, you can also get the Penumbra paint with that. Or you can get a standalone ship for $250 US. And there's other multiple paints available for that. So you can get, if you're concierge, all the way up to 5 additional paints. And you can pledge it. And like I said, you're going to get that Citizencon paint for right now. I don't know how long that goes through, possibly until 315 goes live, that Meridian paint that comes for the Citizencon celebration. And of course, CCUs are available to it, but you're not going to get any paints, including you're not going to get that Citizencon paint. So keep that in mind. Of course, we'll discuss the 400i a little bit later in the show, a little bit more in depth. And there's definitely mixed reviews on that, but we'll discuss that. Now, like I said, no Star Citizen Live or Inside Star Citizen, but we did have a roadmap roundup. And what do we have in that, J-Sco?
Starting out, added to the progress tracker, player item shard transition. I can say that. That's part of server meshing. jumping ahead to Citizencon, part of the thing they talked about with server meshing was the concept of regional shards, and all this is figuring out how, if you're on shard A and you park your Carrack in a certain spot and you move to shard B, all that stuff gets moved over seamlessly so that you don't have to worry about it. There's a character creator for Squadron 42 that I wasn't sure if that was going to bleed into PU or not. I assume it will, because they've talked about a lot of enhancements that they're looking to do for the character creator when you're creating your person to individualize it.
Are they going to finally
Uh,
add bald back?
it doesn't say. It's just DNA. They're adding DNA to the archetype. Um, let's see. Skipping over name resolving API as part of the game engine. Landing improvements. They're looking at, this is all AI stuff, for ships to be able to land on, like, just, I guess, out in the wilderness where there is no landing pad, or ATC services to guide the ship in. Also some AI navigation so that they can, like, NPCs can actually use elevators and mass transit, because right now apparently they don't and they can't, in case you've
And
never noticed.
I just want to say this kind of touches into what they had mentioned earlier, that they're working on the ability to have NPC ships fly in formation with you. So I guess eventually you'll be flying in formation with your NPC ships, landing on planets with them. Sounds
Possibly.
exciting.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, that would definitely be a great addition.
yeah. There's new stuff coming on the tracker as far as backpacks. They're adding a Grey Cat industrial salvage backpack for specifically salvage gameplay. And then a bunch of hospital outfits for NPCs for Lorville, Area 18, which are coming in 316 and 317, and also Levski's on there, which was interesting. And then outlaw medical outfits for I assume, the outposts and whatnot. And then I mentioned the DNA head texture updates as part of the character creator stuff that they're doing.
Yep.
And
And
then
as far as backpacks, eventually we will see the Argo backpack.
Yeah, that was I think in the monthly report, they talked about assets there where they had developed some of that stuff. We can talk about that later. And then release view for 315, they moved Grimhex Clinic and the A2 into the committed phase so that it's in the day one release of 315, and we see both of them in the PTU.
So that brings us to Citizencon. And as I mentioned, we did do a live stream of the entire event on last Saturday, and those links will be in the description below. Lots and lots and lots of information there. They gave us a sneak peek at Pyro and the jump gates, which looked absolutely amazing. I was blown away by what they were showing as far as the visuals for that. The difference in the jump gates now versus how they were, God, would have been about a year ago when they were showed the initial kind of peek at the jump gates, and definitely vast improvement in the visuals. They also got into the ship talk panel, which was probably one of my more, wanted to see things. With that, we got information on the BMM. It's larger. It's now got a hangar that's going to be able to accommodate the Banu Defender. And the Defender will work with some type of synergy with the ship as well. A lot of people are already going through and mapping out what else they can park in that hangar, of course. And the still looking at approximate 3,000 SCU of cargo space on that. But they did get into the fact that they've just pretty much had to start reworking it again, make changes to it, increase the size. And one thing that really I found interesting is that it's pretty much starting production now. So that is headway towards finally seeing in game. So the fact that it's in production hopefully means that within the next year, year and a half, that we're going to finally see it hit in verse if they'll be willing to release it.
Yeah, that's going to be a very exotic, interesting looking ship.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, and the thing I thought was cool is that all of the storage is now definitely inside. It used to be, from some of the concept art, it was the bottom of it was exposed, and now it's all inside. It's
Yeah.
going to have some of the same levitation technology as the what is that thing? The Raylan.
Yep.
So there won't be any kind of, like, arms coming down on the cargo lift and whatnot. I thought it was a really cool and in-depth look at what they're doing right now. I thought it
Yeah.
was neat.
The thing that surprised me is they just came out and kind of gave hints as to what that, I guess you would call it drop down leg underneath the ship actually was for. It's in all the pictures of it, and of course you can see it in several artist renditions of the ship, and they've never really come straight out to explain because obviously it's got traditional landing gear, and that is what's going to be your entry point into the ship itself, as well as the shopping area, I guess.
It's a fuel scoop, they said, and when it opens up, it's supposed to be like this. They're trying to give like the feel of entering like Aladdin's cave or whatever is what they kept
Mm-hmm.
saying because there's going to be awnings and all sorts of stuff that fold out. It's sounded pretty cool.
Yep. And if that's
Yeah,
the
but
fuel scoop, it's going to make a lot of fuel.
the important question on everyone's mind: can I wish for more wishes?
Possibly if you can get to the sanctuary up in the back there.
Yeah, really. And if you look at the cutout of this thing, I mean, basically, it's just got one ginormous engine coming out of the back of that thing. You are not going to want to rear end this ship at any cost because all you're going to do is fly right into the cone of the engine and just incinerate yourself.
Get cooked.
Yep. And of course, aside from the BMM, we saw they talked about briefly a MISC large exploration and small refinery ship that will be down the line a bit. Nothing announced as far as names, designs, or any artwork on it. So that's going to be definitely something to look forward to, especially with a small refinery ship. I think that's going to definitely pay off for a lot of the people that do mining out there. And then again, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the Misk refinery ship could possibly make an appearance at IAE the way they were talking. They kept talking about hopefully us being able to see it soon, whereas the large exploration ship they were concepting out, I think.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I mean, because usually we'll see something, some big announcement at IAE. So it'd be nice to see if we get a chance to see that, maybe even to go into a concept sale or something like that. Of course, that brings us to the Anvil Liberator. This was actually announced during Citizencon. They really kind of modeled it after a landing craft style ship and somewhat off of a Hellcat. For anybody that's familiar with that, that's the U.S. Navy's large hovercraft, landing craft that they use, and the thing is humongous. And likewise, here the Liberator is actually really good size. It's got 3 extra small landing pads. It's got an interior garage for cargo or for tanks or tonks and cyclones. And then it's also got a 2-man crew and room for, I believe, 16 passengers. And this thing looks like it'll be interesting. I don't think it's going to quite fit my fleet, but I know a lot of people are really loving the way this thing looks.
Yeah, the 16 passengers. It was like they're like jump seats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a few observations or questions about it. Like first of all, I look at it and I think Pyros, right? Pyros is coming down the line in 4.0. They're getting us ready for Pyros. They just released, well, we'll talk about it soon, the 400i and having longer range. They're releasing things to move things and get you further. And so this easily looks like the type of thing that you would fill up with your fighters, which don't have long range, right? And then you take it into Pyros and then you use them there. But one of my questions has to do with, at least with this regard, is the jump drive size. I noticed it has a large size jump drive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean quantum drive, I mean jump drive. And I recall that there's various jump sizes for jump points or whatever. And I do wonder if maybe Pyros isn't going to be a large jump point. So maybe it won't be usable there.
Well, I think if I remember correctly from CitizenCon, they actually stated that there's going to be multiple ways to go between systems. If you don't have access to the main jump gate and all that, there are going to be back doors. There's going to be ways to sneak through and different things because, as they explained, the jump gates are actual naturally formed entities. They're not man-made. So it's very. Is it possible that there may be different sized jump gates that are anomalies elsewhere in the verse that you can do to transverse over to another system? Or are you going
Yeah,
to be limited and have to sneak in through with somebody else unseen? It'll be interesting to see how they do that.
well, yeah, I think if you look at the RSI webpage, they've got the star map or whatnot. There are various sizes of jump points and whatnot. So like larger capital ships will only be able to jump between the larger jump points, not the smaller ones.
Right.
So there is that coming. But
So
so oh sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I had one of these conversations in another forum with some folks, and the speculation that everybody came to at that point was we finally get to the point where they start dropping in Pyro and Nyx and different star systems. The speculation is that they're not going to have the jump point restriction. So in the beginning, we'll be able to just go. They were speculating, and I think it makes sense because the way Sig tends to do their stuff is put the feature in, let's get some data, and then let's refine it. And
Yeah.
so
Right.
it may not be an issue right away, and maybe we may have time to figure it out, I guess.
Yeah. That's very
That
Well,
true.
and
totally makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, I really think too, just the scope, like the size of the ship, it really kind of impressed me with the Liberator. Because when you first look at it, you're like, well, how is it going to hold all that stuff? But then you actually start looking at some of the diagrams of what's inside of the thing, and you're like, this is a large vessel. I mean, it's got to be the size of a Carrack, if not bigger than a Carrack.
Yeah, I saw
It's got a lot of room.
yeah, I saw one diagram where it showed somebody parking a mole and then two smaller ships in front of it along with like a 125, and it from first glance you don't think about the size, but then when you start seeing what people are planning to put into it, it's like, yeah, that's a lot bigger than I thought.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's going to have some of the drive sizes. They kind of line up with like the things that a Carrack is capable of. So I would imagine if a Carrack can get somewhere, the Liberator can probably get there too. They share a quantum drive, they share a jump drive, so they can probably. I mean, this thing's probably going to be able to take you pretty much anywhere you need to get.
Yeah, and I think, of course, we don't have a date as to when it's going to be in the verse yet, of course. But for those that own Krakens and things like that, of course, that's going to serve the same purpose. It'll be able to carry any ship that you want to carry. But if this comes in before the Kraken, then it's going to really be able to step up to carry those support vessels that normally wouldn't have the fuel capacity to keep up with a Carrack or something larger along those lines, an 890. And this will be able to haul them alongside of it so that you have that support structure in place when you get to wherever you're going.
Well, and one of the outstanding questions I think that everybody's been asking is, does the Liberator have the ability to refuel the small ships that it's carrying, or is it just a ferry?
That was
Um,
one thing that came to my mind is the refuel and repair option because it's only got a two-man crew.
yeah,
So are they going to be able to do the refuel and the repair, or at least maybe even the refuel, and be able to keep those things going? Or is it you're going to get to where you're going and you got to find a spot to get fuel?
yeah. I
That's a good
mean,
question.
even if it can't refuel, though, they did make a statement a while back around like the small single seat fighters either having really small quantum range or no quantum drive at all
Right.
as they develop things. So things like the Liberator, the Idris, the Kraken are going to be important to move those around if you want to use them.
I wonder if it could have held more. Like you look at it, right? And they have the garage door, if you don't mind me calling it that. The garage door, right, in the top there. That could have been pushed all the way to the front, right? It could have held an even longer, larger ship at the top if they needed to, or something. Feel like they kind of gimped it a little bit by putting it inward.
Well, I think that because I thought of that myself, and you think about it, if you got the pad on top occupied, and you need to get something down on the lower pad, but it's not short enough to be under that. If you extend that over, you're really limiting what you can get on that front pad,
And
and
it kind
you're
of blocks getting cargo into the bay or whatever you need to get in there.
yeah. If you have that extra height, you're going to have a ramp on the back, and of course the ramp on the front to get anything into that garage area. And of course that garage area is probably going to be big enough to hold things like M50s, Razors, even the X85, or even probably even depending on the height, a Saber or something.
They did say that that area is large enough for a ship, and they expect to see people parking them in there.
Yeah, so you could really increase the capacity of your support ships by using the smaller fighters like the Saber and the Gladius and things like that.
So here's a question: Is this thing just going to get eclipse bombed to hell in Pyros? I
I think
mean,
I think it's always going to be a risk. I mean, any ship is always at risk of getting torpedoed, but we know that on a pilot controlled ship, torpedoes are not as big of a threat as you first think. I think it's safe to say that we've all that are, on the episode today evaded a torpedo or two in our time.
Yeah, but this is a huge vehicle that's not gonna move very fast, right?
Right,
I
but
would
it's got
imagine.
the point defense system on it. It's also going to have obviously a outfitting of chafe and or noise and decoy, and it's got that they were talking about that auto point defense system, kind of like a Sea Whiz on a Navy ship that's going to be able to track and supposedly fire down incoming missiles all by itself.
Yeah, if you fire missiles from far enough away, but you know that a lot of these Eclipse bombers, what they do is they fly in real fast and they'll launch right at the last moment.
Yep.
So there's just minimal time and it just instantly. So what I see is when I see this ship, I think, man, people are going to spend all this time, right, like an hour loading it with your ships, dealing with the bugs, right, because there's going to be bugs. You're going to get it all packed up, and then it's going to be too juicy of a target for those people who are looking for juicy targets.
I think it could be, but I think that also comes to if you're going to have ships that are on the outside of it. If you think you're going to be in a situation like that, launch a couple of support fighters to help run protection while you're transiting. Obviously, you're not going to be able to going through the jump gates and such, but if you got a couple of Gladius on top, a couple of Sabers, or even a Harbinger, throw that out into the air to protect you while you're transiting. And if it gives the refuel option, that will even give more support to keep it airborne longer. I think the biggest downfall with the Liberator is I'm expecting this thing is going to maneuver like a ton of bricks.
Yes.
So you're not going to have the option for evasive maneuvering. So you're going to have that support fighter probably deploying off of it to help protect it.
Yeah, and then one of the things that I was thinking about, as everybody's like talking about different ways to use the Liberator, um, things like the Daymar Rally and whatnot, right? The C2 is one of the popular ships I would assume coming up to like move your ground vehicles for the race. If you had one of these guys and they start physicalizing cargo and whatnot,
Hmm.
you could it would be a much better, I think, support ship as far as moving your racing team and whatnot. So
Yeah, this would
it may
be
not just
awesome
be
for that. Yeah.
might not just be out in pyro getting blown up.
Yep.
Right, right.
But I think a lot of it's going to come down to just careful planning on what you're planning on doing and making sure that you've got support forces with you that can protect you along the way. And that's where orgs are going to come in handy, or at least alliances with orgs or being a member.
Also, just want to throw it out there. I noticed it has two utility mounts, so I guess it'll probably have tractor beams or something. So added usefulness.
Yeah, I would imagine tractor beams. I'm not sure what else they can. I mean, unless there's something they do with salvage as far as the other
Claw
utility.
arms.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so the Liberator's available out there, and of course you can see that on the RSI site, which brings us to the Origin 400i. And of course, we'll get more in depth into the 400i a little further down here, but that was actually launched straight to flyable. And with Citizencon, there were a lot of other panels on graphics, engines, server meshing, systemic gameplay, including even the audio basis of the game. So check out those links, check out your favorite panels, or watch the entire stream from our YouTube channel with our commentary. It's all out there. I'll make sure you guys got the links.
I was just gonna say a lot of those panels covered more in depth a lot of the things that they've already been telling us.
Yep.
Except for like server meshing went a little bit further and kind of explained the new direction they're going with server meshing, which has caused a few people to be happy and a lot of other people to be a little nervous. But
Yeah, I actually enjoyed the server meshing. I mean, it really put it into perspective as far as how it operates and what it does. I wouldn't say put it on a layman's term kind of
no,
thing. I mean, you do have to have a little bit of a technical background to make full sense of it. And there were even a few things in there that I got lost on, but it really did do a good job of explaining it and kind of bring to light what it is that they have to do to get it to work.
yeah, I think the biggest thing that's causing people to churn, a little bit of salt going on, is that they stated that they need a lot more R&D to get a global shard, which means people would be broken up into regional areas, so it won't be a true single universe that encompasses all of the players on Earth.
Correct.
Not
At
like
least for
again.
now.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least for now.
Yeah. And
Um,
of course, everybody's been looking at server meshing as fixing the 30K issue, but we had an announcement this week that they are working on implementing 30K persistence. So that was big news out there in the verse, and the fact that if you 30K, your cargo on your ship and all that is going to be recoverable and it's going to be protected. So at least that's, again, another step in the right direction for a lot of people's concerns.
although I heard that heartbeat system is only going to be once every 10 minutes, which is a bit questionable whether or not that's going to help you or if it's timed well for you or not.
Yeah, and I fully expect that we're going to see all kinds of bugs and all kinds of adjustments needing to be made after they implement it.
Yeah. Won't be perfect, and it's a band-aid.
Yeah,
They've said as much.
yeah. At least they were upfront about that fact.
About the regional shards,
Yeah.
it's not going to be that big of a deal at this point because we don't have bases on moons. We don't have, we don't really. There's not much that you do to a planet that you really need to have happen for everybody, right? It's like that example of leaving a can at a tree on Hurston, right? Like, sure, if you jump to the European server, that can's not going to be there, but that's kind of like a very minor thing compared to everything else,
Right.
for now.
Well, yeah, I think the bigger churn for people is the people that really want the true high population game.
Mm-hmm.
You can't if how much what is the population limit going to be to each shard? It's kind of like today we've got a 50. It's around 50. I think it looks a little bit like it's above 50 these days, but on per server. So what's the pop cap on a shard going to be? Is it 100,000 users? Is it excuse me? Is it, whatever it is, it's not going to encompass the number of people that they're looking for because some of these folks want to actually, build up their org and control uh, maybe Pyro or a part
Right,
of
right.
or a planet in Pyro
Yeah.
with their org and have large fleet battles and have that experience. And they're worried that they're not going to be able to because the shards are going to limit the population per shard. So kind of like we are with servers today.
Yeah.
But they say that they're R&Ding it, so it's kind of like everything with Star Citizen. You just gotta wait. Just gotta
Yeah.
sit down and wait.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and that's
mean,
not a bad thing, because right now, if they did have 100,000 people in one instance, we don't have the room for it in the verse. I mean, if you put, even 100 people into New Babbage right now, where are they all going to go?
yeah.
Like it's going to be packed. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that some of the tech that they're developing is going to take time because they need time to finish more systems, and more places to be. And they'll probably have to delete. I hope they delete a lot of those NPCs that are floating around, but because they're a little out of hand right now. But as they develop these things and the whole system grows as a whole, we start to get a better experience like all the way around, as opposed to if they try to rush one side of this, they're just going to create an additional problem for themselves.
I don't know about you guys, but I've been trampled to death in this game, and I could easily imagine being trampled trying to get to that ship console.
Yeah. I think we've all been trampled at some point.
One man with a med gun could cause a lot of trouble.
Yep. Which we're going to get into that issue a little bit later as well too. So yeah, that brings us into the patch 315. Obviously this released during Citizencon and we're 1 week into wave 1 now. They introduced the 400i as well as the Hercules A2, and with the Hercules A2 they introduced the Moab. And this is my new favorite weapon. No matter how little use I'm going to have for it, those explosions are absolutely freaking gorgeous. The last stream we did the flight formation, 6, 7, 8 of us dropping bombs all at once. That was just glorious. And I could not ask for any bigger explosion than what we got with that.
I love everything about Moab explosions. I love just the idea you could just throw the bomb out there. It's just good utility. I just love it.
Oh yeah, and it works well because when we go to clear crime stat, we drop one of those on the security depot or on the data center, and one of them just takes out every turret, no questions asked. You don't have to worry about wasting anything else. Just hover up there about 10, 15,000, drop that thing and just wait the few minutes it takes for it to fall, wait for the flash of light, you're clear to land. And it's absolutely gorgeous. Of course, with that, they also added the kitchen to the A2 and the M2 variants. And with the A2, it's got the special remote gunner's room on the port side, which gives you 4 specialist seats for the added underbelly guns on the A2. It also retains the cockpit support seats for the 2 additional remote turrets. But in the future, they're going to take that seat behind the pilot, and that's eventually, and this is something they talked about at Citizencon, they're going to eventually turn that into a bombardier chair, which means they're going to have a downward facing camera. They're going to be able to, line up. Now, I don't know if it'll transfer flight controls or what, but they'll be able to guide the bomb in to the release point, at which they'll control the release of the bomb onto the target down below. And I'm looking forward to that. But even right now, I haven't mastered it yet. I still got to practice a little bit more. But the bombs are not that difficult to operate.
Also, wind affects them too, I believe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one thing they talked about in the Inside Star Citizen, where they talked about is like all those physics, wind, and other effects are going to definitely affect it as it's dropping.
Well, they fall really slow too.
Yes. Yes.
Right, that's the counter. Actually, that's the counter to an A2. An A2 is coming to bomb you. What you need to do is immediately shoot that bomb while it's still in the area of the A2, and you can actually kill the A2.
Yeah.
So when on stream when they were dropping the bombs, I was trying to shoot them out of the air, and it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Right. But I thought
Did you target it? Because they can be targeted, and then your shots will line up.
Yeah.
Yep. And I
And
thought
it may have just been desync too, but
yeah, and I thought Krieg or somebody in the org had verified you can shoot the bombs, but don't be close to it.
yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I watched a Twitch streamer. He shot his buddy was dropping a bomb, and then he shot it, and it blew up very quick and took out the A2. It's beautiful.
It can drop your shields very quickly.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it does. Just real quick, the 4 specialist seats, the port room that has the 4 gunner seats.
Yeah.
Just a comment on that. I like the way Sig set those up. Each seat matches where the turret is below.
Oh,
So like
that
the
is
front right,
nice.
the front right is the lower right, the rear right is the rear. So they're it's a 1-to-1 match. You don't have to like guess like get
You
in
don't
and
have to
I
get
get
in
you,
the
I get
chair
you
and
now.
select which one you want to occupy.
Yeah.
You just go to the chair for the one you want to occupy.
Yep.
I'm amazed it took to get into 315 before we got that in a ship. Because on some of them, it's like a lottery. You're like, I don't know which turret I'm going to be in. Like,
Oh,
can I see the
yeah.
bottom of the ship, the top of the ship?
Well, that's like the Reclaimer. You just get a list of 3 remote turrets. You got to pick one and figure out where you're going to end up.
Exactly.
So that brings us to our 400i. All right. So obviously, there's been a lot of things going on with the 400i. And this has been a bit of a touchy subject for some and touchy subject for the others as well, too, depending on which side of the fence you're on. With the 400i, the handling is still being worked on. Right now, it's still being tweaked, adjusted. We haven't seen the final iteration on that, but really coming out of the gate at CitizenCon, this thing handled worse than a freelancer. And currently, right now, the out of atmosphere handling is much better, but in atmosphere, you can't even get this thing to really get a roll going unless you got 5 minutes to wait for it to get past the halfway point. Its in atmosphere handling is horrendous.
I do want to mention it has VTOL thrusters, and I think a lot of people didn't realize that. And it's not really meant to be rolling. It's meant to be using the VTOL. It's meant to stay stable, kind of like the 890. You're not meant to roll an 890 in atmosphere.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is that when I fly the 400i, it feels more like I'm flying the 890 because one aspect I look at when I'm doing the review videos and all that is I purposely go out and do bounties, and I also kind of fly oddly in atmosphere because if you get into a situation where pirates are attacking, they have a mantis and you can't quantum out, you can't really run. How fast can you run away? How quickly can you do evasive maneuvers if they if they have missiles or large numbers of people? can you do more than just drift gently to the left and right to evade gunfire or missiles or things like that? And because a lot of people ask me in the review on the videos, why was I taking into bounties? It's not made for that. It's like, because there's going to be times you're in a situation where somebody has a mantis and you're going to have
Exactly.
to fight, and you got to know how it's going to handle.
And the truth is, it does much better in space in that regard than it does in atmosphere.
Absolutely, it does. I think 187 top SCM speed. That it just seems low for something that has the style and the looks that it has. It looks like it should just be able to cut right through the air because it looks gorgeous. I mean, the ship has Star Wars inspiration to it, as far as a lot of people compare it to the Naboo class cruiser, as well as the Darth Maul ship. I think it's kind of more of a cross between the two. It's absolutely gorgeous. I think the interior couldn't have been better planned out. I love the interior on that ship. The bridge is gorgeous. It just, when it comes to flying it, that's where I just kind of lose it there.
Well, yeah, and I mean, just a couple thoughts on it. Like, as you were saying, the interior, its lift inside, that should be on every ship. Like, it's so fast, it just zips you up to the next level. You're not waiting for it. I love it. I wish it included everywhere.
Yep.
But I ran the same problems in atmosphere. When you roll that thing, like I was just flying it around Microtech, just seeing kind of what its limit was. And it seems like once you get it at about a 45-degree angle, you'll start to drop.
Yeah.
And I don't know what causes that. You can put it into a VTOL mode. I don't see a difference beyond the thrusters still fire the same. You can still see the same thrusters firing. It doesn't seem like it changes the stability when you're stable, when you go into VTOL mode. So I think it's kind of like there's a few other ships that are like that, where they have a VTOL mode, but it doesn't really do anything.
Right.
But if you flatten it back out, you can climb again. But if you're at a 45-degree angle and you try to climb, you sink.
Right,
I
'cause
just think they don't have it ironed out.
It's because they intentionally, if you look at it, there's not enough thrusters on those sides. It's really just not meant to do that maneuver.
Yeah. And that's the only thing that kind of really struck me, because I would think on something you're not going to have a really fast in atmosphere speed, you'd want to be able to do maneuvering to avoid shots at you, or at
Big
least
time,
have
right?
some capability to maneuver and avoid things if people are coming after you.
Right. I just want to say, like, take the 600 for example. That's what I've spent a lot of time in. If you fly an atmosphere and you try having it sit at different angles, like you can tell, like some angles it doesn't really hold as well as others, and it's because of where the thrusters are, based on the design of the ship. And this one is basically just designed to be flown in that more uh, just more upright, sort of serious sort of point of view rather than doing barrel rolls and craziness.
Yeah. I
Well,
don't want to be all crazy. I'm just saying, at least give it the ability to smoothly go over to where you have some maneuverability. Right now, where
Yeah,
I did it, it stalled at one point, and like Tana said, it started falling out of the sky, and
yeah.
it just had trouble getting past that halfway point. Completely vertical, and it just had that little trouble. Now, once it got past that, it started speeding up. And if that was just a little bit smoother, where you could get a continuous, even if it's slow movement, to where if you're avoiding a missile, you have a chance to actually move out of its way.
well, too, they also, when they were comparing it to the Connie and the Corsair, like one of the comments was the weapon loadout on it. It doesn't even come close to comparing to what a Connie can put out for firepower. And they said, it's faster in a straight line, and it's meant to run away. But they were also pushing the concept that it was more maneuverable, so you would be maneuvering to get away. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I haven't seen that where it's much more maneuverable than a Connie in space. Like I feel like the Connie will keep up with it just fine, which is kind of odd.
With the exception of actual speed. But that
Yeah,
brings
yeah,
us, of course, to some of the other points of the 400i. Of course, we have that dedicated X1 bay in the nose, and questions. Some people have successfully gotten the Apoanox up there, others haven't. Not so concerned with that as the X-Wing's not even in game yet, but hopefully that might be a sign we'll see it soon. Who knows? But they did, and you brought, as you mentioned, J-Scale, they did state that they designed this to be a competitor to the Connie or the Corsair. And that is probably, aside from maneuvering, probably the one thing I have the biggest beef with. Because,
Yeah.
and not so much in weapons loadout, because I think the weapons are balanced for the size of ship that it is. I don't have an issue with what weapons are on there. I think when you compare a ship to a Connie or a Corsair, you're looking at more than just size and gun loadout. You have to look at what is it capable to do. You look at
Yes.
a Connie, the lowest HP on a Taurus is more than twice what the HP on the 400i is. If you get up to the Aquila, which is the exploration variant, it's almost 3 times the amount of hull HP. You also have the ability to take any support vehicles that you want with you, whether it be an Ursa, a Rock, a Cyclone. Of course, they have the Archimedes and the Merlins attached to the Connies, which are specific to that. I'm not asking for one of those to be attached, but at least the ability to put a rock in, because if you're out exploring, how are you going to pay for food, water, fuel, repairs? You're going to have to do something to make
Sure.
AUEC.
And there's so many other taller vehicles and whatnot. And, people often say, oh, well, it shouldn't do everything, or, so on and so forth. First of all, it doesn't really compete in any of those categories, as you say. And actually, it's the wealthiest people who tend to install hydraulics into their cars. It's not the poor people,
Yeah.
you know. But I want to just say one important piece. One of the ways that the 400i aces the Constellation, and even the 600i, is in quantum fuel. It has nearly 40% more fuel.
Yeah, I definitely will give it credit for that. It is built for fuel efficiency, and it does extremely well there.
Well,
Um,
the keep in mind though, the Nomad, the MSR, the Hercules, all the newer ships that are coming out, they've stated that they're going back and forth between larger fuel tanks and less efficient fuel scoops. So they're testing, and that's what they're trying to figure out. Is it better to have big fuel tanks and go farther between fill-ups, or is it better to have kind of smaller fuel tanks but have fuel scoops that help get you there, go
Right,
longer
but
between
that's
fill-ups.
for hydrogen.
yeah, that doesn't recover quantanium or
I
quantum
know,
fuel.
but the hydrogen fuel tank on that thing is also, that's where I was going, is the hydrogen tank is also, larger.
Monstrous.
Yeah. So I think the other thing we have to look at is in the past, Sega's at some point, I can't find the reference where, but I believe if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it fits a Cyclone, it'll fit a Rock was the aspect they were going for. And
Hmm.
this definitely went away from that. And the fact that yes, it's an exploration, and kind of like I said, you have to have a way to fund that. And a lot of people don't see the Rock as something that you would want to take with you on exploration. I think it'd be the best exploration ship, support vehicle to take on a ship with you, because you can explore in it, you can drive it around, it's rugged, and it can make you some money if you need to make some emergency repairs. But they did make the
Or
oh, go ahead.
and even any of the other taller vehicles. Maybe you want you need some little missile support from a ground vehicle, or maybe you need some turret gun vehicle, some support.
Yeah, now the AA did fit. The AA, because the rockets are folded down into the Cyclone, that will fit in it. Just the same as, because it
Okay.
doesn't exceed the regular Cyclone size. So you can get an AA in there.
Like a TR.
The TR, I did not try. I've heard some people say they
I
were
didn't.
able to get in there. Other people say they weren't. So
Okay.
now,
And they're looking at ways of fixing this too, of course.
yeah, obviously, if we look at the post that they did about announcing it was going back to its near original configuration, later on in one of the posts that Mintriel mentioned that they are looking at a system, and this is in the third video I did on the 400i. They are looking at a system that would allow the ship to extend its elevator past its normal point, so that if you do need to get a vehicle that is too tall to get under the ship, you can hover the ship, drop the elevator down, and it will go past its normal point to the ground so that you can get taller vehicles in there.
Right, but that's pretty annoying. But a lot of people have commented that they could do a much simpler option. Like, for example, when the cargo bay comes down, the shift could automatically lift up a bit, like the suspension,
Right. Yeah,
just
I
to when
did
the
see
cargo elevator's
that.
down.
And I think that's a great idea. I mean, hit a button and the suspension just raises it up a foot, allows it to get
Yeah,
that thing in, and then comes right back down. It won't affect the landing. It's just a matter of implementing that.
exactly. I really hope they add that.
Yep. So, but overall, I mean, that comparison with the Connie and the Corsair, I think was really the wrong route to build this thing. I mean, based on its capabilities, its uh build out and everything else, I gotta say this really falls more in line with the Cutlass Black or the Freelancer and not the Connie or the Corsair.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think of it as a Cutlass Black.
Well,
So,
and if you just think of confidence, if I'm pulling up to something and I'm in my Connie, if I'm in an Andromeda, I don't really care who shows up to attack me unless it's something small that's going to zip around me and try to needle me to death. If I'm in the 400 and I see something approaching, it's like, do I need to just turn around and go away right now?
that's
Because
your
I
best.
know I'm not going to survive.
Yeah, that's your best option. I mean, if you even look at the Cuddy, I mean, it even outperforms the 400i in several areas, from SCU space, what you can load into it and what you can carry with it. It definitely keeps up with it as far as speed. It's got an equivalent weapons loadout as well as a turret. I really think that they really misclassified it. I think they just made a poor choice on what they were going to compare it to, because when that Corsair comes out, if it's even slightly close to what their specs on it are, the Corsair is going to blow it out of the water without even blinking an eye.
Yeah, big time.
The one thing that they haven't talked about though, and it's just because the gameplay loop isn't fleshed out, is the scanning suite. It does
Mm-hmm.
have that table in the back,
Hmm.
so it is meant for better resolution scanning. But how will that compare to a Corsair? How will that compare to the Connie? I mean,
Well,
the
like,
Connie Aquila has a dedicated turret that you can put
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
stuff on.
but it doesn't have the holotable, exactly.
yeah. It doesn't have the holotable, but it will have the advanced scanning in that turret. But you also have the Terrapin with the advanced scanning. You're also going to have the MSR, I believe, is going to have advanced scanning. So there's definitely going to be several ships with that feature, and including other exploration variants. Now, if it's going to be the same thing for the Aquila that what the 400i will have, I don't know. Obviously, they're not built out the same way, so it's going to be interesting to see how they implement that turret kind of function into the Aquila.
Well, and the Aquila is also supposed to have the same thing as the Carrack with the jump point calculation antennas.
Yep.
That's what the missile arms on the Aquila turned into,
Yeah. So,
supposedly.
but obviously, we had a little controversy overall, and I think actually to expand on that, Jasko, you had a good point. It's more of an exploration light ship than a competitor.
It's a
Right.
sexy ship, but I think that CIG should be a little bit embarrassed with what they put out for the price, for what they compared against. You know,
I
they
think
they needed a
the
little bit of scolding.
Yeah, I think the thing that really shot him in the foot was the comparison. I think that really is the number one just thing that they just nail in the coffin. You look at the Connie and the Corsair versus the 400i, and you would have much higher expectations than what the 400i provides.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, all right, so we'll move on from that bit of controversy. Of course, with 315, we got the medical gameplay changes, injury mechanics and healing, as well as the intoxication effects, which we will get into massive testing here in one of our streams, as well as CIG is currently sorting out one of the other issues we'll talk about here in just a second. And of course, we got our hospitals and clinics. Lorville Area 18 obviously aren't in, so you're going to be able to spawn up at Bygenie or Everest in those cases and still have access to everything. And for 315, this was one thing with and this is more towards inventory, but even when you wake up in medical, if you're on, say, Tressler, and you need access to your stuff, you have access to everything that's down on New Babbage, which was a nice thing I think they put in, and a nice addition so that when you're waking up in those hospitals that are above the planet, you still have access to your full inventory. But the medical gameplay definitely is a huge learning curve. I'm still trying to get it down. And I know there's a lot of people that have had a lot of fun with it and a lot of people that have used it for nefarious means, which brings us to the issue that they're trying to sort out with the OD griefing gameplay. One thing people found out that is you can actually administer drugs from the gun in Armistice Zone, at ASOPs, in cities, on stations. Granted, if you do so, you're possibly looking at a crime stat if they're not in need of healing. But a lot of people have been taking this to an extreme.
Yeah, it's
And
worth it with a crime stat. Just give you that horse dewormer until you're keeling over.
well,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
you get if somebody overdoses you, you do get the ability to press charges.
Right.
Yeah, but it's totally worth it at this point. People are happy to accept that.
Right. And what the point that we're at now is that people, and this is the sad thing. And obviously, every game, no matter what it is out there, has griefers. It has people with toxic gameplay and all that. No game ever gets away from that unless you're playing a solo campaign that you never have to interact with anybody. But people are purposely saying they're doing it on purpose, and they're using the excuse that they want to bring attention to the fact that this is a problem. So that's like saying bank robberies are a problem, so I'm going to go rob a bank to make sure the cops know it's a problem. It
Yeah.
doesn't flesh out for me because now you're impeding the playability of the game by others purposely for the sake of making them miserable. Two, obviously CIG already knows about the issue because there's several Spectrum posts on it. And three, what purpose does it freaking serve other than to piss people off?
Yeah, it's just trolling. I watched some people doing it last night, and the guy's argument was, "Oh yeah, I'm at Grim Hex doing it, so this is lawless, right?" But actually, no. There's a reason why there's an armistice zone. Like, there's supposed to be an area where you're safe to get to your ship and to do your thing, so that other players can have their chance to actually just play the game. But instead, there are people running there, shooting you as fast as you can, so you can't get away, and it's very abusive.
Right. And there's some people that look at, oh, well, armistice zones are going away, and when they're gone, you'll be able to turn around and shoot them. Well, yeah, but that's not what's in the game right now. And it's sad to say that there are these people out there that want to do this. Now, if we're in party and I'm on a station and J Scale decides he wants to shoot me up to make me drunk as a joke, I have no problem with that. He's in my party. I know him. He's not trying to do anything malicious. It's all for fun. And he's not trying to, incapacitate me to steal things off me. He's not going to really let anything to happen to me after he does it. That's different than somebody going up to a complete rando and just jacking them
Yeah.
up with so much drugs that now they're incapacitated for at least 15 minutes, I think is the time that it takes before you can even get up and start walking around. And then you're wobbling around for God knows how long after that.
That's if it doesn't
It,
kill.
yeah, I was gonna say it depends on how much they dose you. Um, Tainted and I figured out that you can dose somebody with and get them a little bit of 80% blood drug level, and then you're just literally walking around intoxicated. But if you double dose them, you could put them up there. I think when we were testing it, I think my health was degrading almost as fast as the drugs were coming down. So it was kind of a race between whether or not I was going to get below 100%
Mm-hmm.
before my health reached, like a critical level and I actually died.
Right.
But there is a way to cure it, actually. If you go to the medical bed at one of these hospitals and you go to like lay down to do the medical treatment, they won't say that you have anything wrong with you. But when you get out of the bed, you'll be fine again.
Right. That's if
Yeah, the
you can
beds.
get to the bed.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was gonna say
Exactly.
the beds automatically heal blood drug
right,
level and they rehydrate you and simple injuries.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
right.
but
I just
to
wanted to
Dark,
throw it out there.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was gonna say to Dark's point, if you're incapacitated, somebody like Tainted has to drag you over to the bed and put you in it.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a long drag, and we had a lot of fun with it, testing it out. I mean, in a party, it's not a bad thing, But like I had a guy try to do it while I was literally just buying stuff at a store. And so there's nothing that tells you when someone's behind you and they trigger that gun. There's no glow or anything really that'll cue you off. Your first cue that something's happened is when you lose consciousness.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that part I think is a little, they just haven't got it figured out. And there's no defense on it. Some people have said, oh, if you take this drug, it stops it. It does not. There's nothing you can take
So
to block it from happening.
there is the noise from the gun. So eventually people are going to listen for that noise. If you hear that med gun noise, you're like, oh shit. Also, I believe there is actually a detox medicine you can take
There
that
is,
will
It
actually
doesn't
counter
stop
it.
it.
but I heard that
All
it doesn't work.
no, all it does is speed up the decay of the blood, the drugs in your blood level. It just doubles them. And that will not keep up with one of those guns. Those guns will overdose you in seconds.
Yep.
Yeah. Now there were some things thrown around on the spectrum, of course, because this is really an issue, and this is an issue that even Xylo's gotten involved with the message boards on it and everything. People are recommending, kind of like you go to a doctor today, you got to give consent. If somebody tries and come and give you a drug that you get a prompt that do you consent, yes or no. Some people countered that with, well, if you're incapacitated, you're not going to be able to give consent. Other things were just completely keep the medical guns from being used in armistice zones and things such as that. Of course, there were counterpoints to all of these because you had that other side that's like, oh, if I'm running a bounty and they're hanging out on Everest Harbor, I should be able to drug them, knock them out, and then drag them to my ship to get the bounty. And I can kind of understand if you're doing it for those means and a legitimate mission, but that's not why people are doing this. The majority of the
Right,
people that are
right.
doing this are doing it to be a dick.
They're just abusers. But
Exactly.
I like the potential of it. I like, this is a sandbox experience, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to take away too many, potentials because
Yeah.
that's part of the fun of the, of it all. The best thing with the med gun, you guys didn't even talk about this, is just drugging yourself. That's where it's at.
Yeah. I mean, if you're injured, I had to do that the other night.
Oh no, for the alcoholic effects.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to do that yet. So,
One
but
one thing to keep in mind though, like Dark, you had a good example of it in your stream the other night where you got killed by I think it was a door a couple times in New Babbage.
yeah.
So being able to use a medical gun in a situation like that is pretty nice. If I was standing next to you, I could just zap you right back up. So it has some value. I think once they iron out the ways to eliminate it, maybe it's a shorter detox period. I don't know. But I almost killed Snag or J-Scale taking him to the bed because it was taking me so long to drag him across the, Tressler and then pick him up and get him in the bed, which isn't 100%. That's still a little buggy.
I'm still bruised.
Exactly. Yeah. But we started getting over there and I'm like, well, is your health actually going to make it? Is this going to work or not? So it's a tricky kind of, there's a balancing act that they're going to have to dance, to really make it work, I think.
Yeah, and that was the point of the Spectrum post is they got to find a balance between this to satisfy both groups. People that want it to be available in armistice zones versus people that want it to just be cut off and then just don't even listen to the griefers. So they don't need a voice.
Right.
All right. So moving on, that brings us to, of course, 315, the inventory, which is definitely new for everybody. I've definitely screwed it up numerous times, gone somewhere, found out I didn't have anything with me. I've ended up I've got a collection of hospital gowns even right now. But yeah, everybody's still learning this one as far as where your ships are, that you're not going to be there. Now, I will admit that it's nice that if you get to a place you need a ship, it's not there, you can claim it. You just got to wait for that claim time, and then it'll be available there for you. Unfortunately, you can't do that with your inventory. So if you wake up and you have not the right clothes or armor, you either got to rebuy it locally or fly back to where it is. I think that one's definitely going to be a big learning curve that's going to probably take us a good amount of time to really get used to. The backpacks are handy. Of course, the backpacks are a thing now, and that allows you to carry more items with you as well as your ship inventory. Of course, the downfall with the ship inventory, if you lose the ship, it's destroyed or lost, or you claim it, you lose everything you stored in it. So right now, me personally, I'm trying to keep things in the backpack or on my person. Um, and then, of course, the Pisces looks like it's got about 650,000. The 400i and Cuddy Red have 1,500,000. Connie Andromeda has 8,000.
8,000.
8 million.
Yeah, it's so basically the one of the challenges with the localized inventory is like they've moved a bunch of stuff around. So if you make your home in New Babbage, nobody wants to wear their subscriber flare, their concierge armor, all that stuff. So we're all buying armor and flight suits. Well, so you're all off shopping. Well, trying to get all that stuff back. Like the first time I went out, I went into 400i because it was new. Well, drag a flight suit into the local storage on the 400i, and that's it. Like I couldn't get much of anything else in there, and I had a couple sets of armor because I figured I would lose them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I ended up dropping a bunch of that stuff as boxes on the cargo deck and risking that. But so basically, this is I've been going in different ships and trying to log like what the local storage is inside the ship.
That
So
that might be a bug too, because on the first day apparently it had a lot of storage, and then this next day it had, as you described, like practically no storage.
Yep.
So I think that's something in flux.
oh, I'm sure it is. They're going to tweak it all. It's just right now these are the it's just the size of the ship. It's supposed to approximate the internal storage that isn't the cargo grid.
Yeah, and I think for as big as this patch is, we're going to see a lot of things even after release to live that are going to get adjusted up and down with all the different factors that they put in on this.
Oh yeah, and it's just all I was trying to get across is maybe pick a larger ship if you want to go shopping and you
Yeah.
want to move your stuff back. That's all.
Okay, one of the things I did want to touch on this is the backpacks. A neat thing that I found is the sides of the backpack can hold a primary weapon on each side. So you could throw a couple of the ARs on there, and then you can fill it up with ammo and whatever else you need, med pens, just all your essentials. You can take that backpack off at that point and put it in your local storage at the station or wherever you're at, and it will stay in that state. It will keep the guns attached to it, and it's ready to go.
But how much cargo
it's kind of-
space does it take up?
It will take up like the total space of the backpack itself.
But not the items
So,
in or
not
out.
the items in it don't seem to affect it. No.
Oh.
So yeah, I haven't had an issue with it. I've never put one into a ship because I would rather have it on me than in the ship. If the ship blows up, I lose it. If
Yeah.
it's on me, I keep
And
it.
This makes sense because I believe the SCU or the micro SCU, whatever the base unit is like a centimeter cubed or whatever. So like the backpack, it's like a full size rigid backpack.
Mhm.
So it will always take its maximum space up, but then naturally you could still fill it up inside of it. you
Yeah.
know.
So it's nice to
yeah.
see that they got that set up correctly.
Yeah, it's nice because you can even create like kits, kind of at different stations, so that you can, if you die and spawn there, you can literally just grab the backpack.
Yeah, you'd
and
have
go.
your go bag, so to speak.
Bug out bag.
So it's kind of a neat
Exactly.
feature.
So, of course, with inventory, we also got the asset manager in the Moby Glass, which is knickknacks. And, of course, our hangar at our home residence is where our main storage location is going to be. With 315, also, we got the bunker missions with the new Infiltrate and Defend missions that you can do. And actually, we've done a number of these. I know I have. I think, J-Scale, you did some. And I think you were in on some there, Tainted. These are actually fun. They had an issue at first where the turrets would fire on you and security guards would fire on you, even though you were there to help. Apparently, there was with the most recent patch, they've corrected that so that you should not get fired upon if you're there to assist. Mando ended up in Klesher a few times because of it. I ended up in Klesher once because of it. The other time, I deserved to be killed.
I heard that the guards will still shoot you if you don't have the mission. You're not supposed to be there. So
Right.
I wonder if, like, imagine you get shot in there, and then you call for help for a player to come save you.
Good
but the
luck.
player can't come because they
They
get
get
shot up
killed.
in there.
I can
Yeah,
verify they get killed because I had to call for help, and I think it was Anril came to try and assist me
yeah.
when the guard inadvertently shot me, and they shot him on sight.
Yeah, and I haven't had a cluster run in, but I did almost lose my ship because the turret was delayed and how quickly it was going to respond to me. It let me get real close before it decided to shoot me.
Yeah,
Port
but
open.
I still have to say I'm enjoying these missions. It adds another way to earn AUEC because we know the wipe is coming. So it's yet something else to add to the variety to keep everything moving smoothly as you try to re-earn your funds in game back. And I think it's a welcome addition. Of course, we got the loot boxes that we can go through after clearing out the bunker, and we can clear out the loot boxes to grab whatever we can. I know I think Bright, you got some knives from one. We've got people that got food and different things like that. I think water or med pens or something like that.
Yeah, you can actually get the old Citizencon knife and even this Citizencon's knife
Mm-hmm.
randomly from those. And they're not just at hostile places too. Like they're actually at you can find them inside the little small ground vehicle calling buildings at outposts.
Yep. So that definitely adds a whole nother level. You just gotta make sure you got space on your person to carry it. So, but
Well,
definitely
and
a
I
nice.
actually even got
Mhm.
I even got a subscriber helmet. Well, no, is it? Yeah, I think it is subscriber exclusive helmet, the one with the red horns
Oh
on it.
yeah, the
So
Oni.
they've got some
Oh,
good loot in there. It's kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
I want to loot a monocle.
haven't seen any of those yet.
Yeah, I haven't
Gotta
run
knock
into
somebody out for
top
that.
hats or monocles. So, of course, that brings us to the new reputation additions that they put in. Of course, mercenary rep for the bunker missions. It has a positive, neutral, and negative rep status. And then, of course, we got the local delivery company. Box delivery missions are locked behind that reputation now. Progression is going to unlock the bunker box delivery missions and the added risk of having hostiles in there. And Jasko, you've been doing these.
Yeah, I've been trying to like max out both the mercenary and the local delivery company reputation lines aren't complete. There's like placeholder text and whatnot in them, but I'm almost to the top level of the delivery company one, which is courier, I think. But it's only 3 levels or 4 levels, I think.
Right.
Uh, yeah, it unlocked the bunker missions, and those are really fun. It still pays out crap. It's still 8,000 AUEC to move 3 boxes, but it's a lot more fun because you get to go down and sometimes bad guys spawn inside the bunkers, and you have to defend yourself. Or I've been jumped by NPC pirates trying to shoot me as I'm trying to make the delivery. So
Right.
it breaks it up because the normal box delivery missions that we used to do were just literally pick stuff up, hope you don't 30k to when you're on
Till
your way
you
to drop
drop it
stuff off.
off.
I really want to see more and more perks developed, more reputation, advantages. That's a huge, huge gameplay factor.
Right. And they did mention on a past video about reputation giving you extra perks, such as being able to buy cargo at a lower price, being able to sell it at a higher price, being able to have access to other missions that aren't going to be readily available, including even going to shops and being able to buy one set of armor. But if you try to get a different set and your reputation is not high enough, it's not going to allow you to buy it.
I'd like them to go as far as even making all the different companies have different org reputation. Like maybe in order to buy an 890 jump, you actually need to work for Origin for them to even allow you to buy one.
Yeah.
They've talked about that. I mean, not that specific scenario, but they've talked about the different companies, organizations having rep, and you
Mm-hmm.
building up rep with those different, like Covalex or whatever, if you're going to be a hauler.
Yep.
So that stuff is in the works, or it's planned anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the whole reputation system just like tentacles going through everything is the idea. And it's just a matter of figuring out how to implement it and how in depth they want to get it. But their goal is that reputation will affect everything.
Yeah, I just hope they lean heavy on it.
Yeah, I have a feeling they're going to. It's going to take time to get there. And we're just
Because
in the very beginning phase of how reputation works and all that. I mean, it's only still new within the last couple patches. So I think we got a long way to go.
Yeah, the stuff we're seeing now, I think I think it was during the Citizencon panel. Um, Tony was saying that they've built out the framework for it with the bounty stuff and the was it Xenothreat and whatnot,
Hmm.
but they're trying to add more into it, and eventually you can earn rep with Nine Tails and criminal organizations as well if you want to go that route.
Yep. Aside from that, we also got the cargo fix came in just over a week ago that actually fixed the cargo system on on the persistent universe. It's a temporary fix, basically resetting all of the refresh rates as well as quantities and all that. Doing the few testing in the few days that I was in after it got posted, it seemed to take care of the issue. I was able to trade no problem. Several members of the org was able to trade with no issues. So it was really great to see that. And that was definitely new there. But this is supposed to carry over into 315. As noted, it carries over into 315. And hopefully that means we're going to get back to our cargo trading and all of that stuff that's been severely missed by a lot of people. Um, so keep your fingers crossed there. And of course, we talked about that persistent 30K persistence that's being added in. It's not in yet. Hopefully, it'll be in when 30 or when 315 launches, and we'll see that make an improvement. We won't know until we're in there and can really see what happens when we 30K. But keep your fingers crossed for that. And of course, we got Orison version 2 with Crusader Showroom, Cousin Crows, Providence Surplus. And that's the third shop you can never remember, J-Scale, Providence Surplus.
I know.
So, Crusader Showroom, of course, they got a placeholder for the Ares Starfighter, but they got the Moab cut out. Cousin Crows, they've got your military spec component needs, and Providence, they've got the industrial clothing and gear store. And then finally for 315, we're going to see Arena Commander and Star Marine scoreboard improvements be implemented, and Arena Commander Broken Moon map also be updated as well. So those are some of the things that we'll see with 315, which is going to bring us to the PU monthly report, which we have a few things to go over here. I'm going to let J Scale go ahead and take it.
One other comment about Arena Commander Star Marine, they did a 1 hour playtest of each this week to test out the scoreboard improvements and impacts of medical and inventory systems on those two sub games, mini games, whatever you
Oh,
call them.
that's good. We couldn't even get into it a week ago.
All right, PU monthly report. This is going to be a very high level, quick summary.
Okay.
NPC worker behavior, hospitals, shops, patrons, security for outposts. They're basically working out different animations and whatnot for all these different workers, and I think we're seeing some of it in alongside the other one under the animation team. We're seeing some of this stuff in 315. We're seeing more. I'll say we're seeing more NPCs in shops. There's definitely more people in the hospitals wandering around, waiting in the reception area and whatnot. They've also I'm skipping down to animation at this point. Focusing on the making the NPCs more lifelike by adding more idle animations and location-based assets. So I've been seeing a lot of weird behavior out of the NPCs, and it looks like they're trying to take selfies. It's just where they're trying to take selfies. It's kind of odd, just like random places. It doesn't. Yeah,
It's
it's
better
a good
than
attempt.
standing on chairs at T-posing.
Yeah, I guess if they're all busy, they're too busy to stand on chairs. Um, they're doing under AI. They're doing more work on stealth gameplay, which was sounds and distractions and whatnot. They're also looking at melee combat. There wasn't a lot on it, but it did go into a little bit about combinations and hitting high, hitting low, different activities
Please,
other than just a
please,
random
CIG, give us
punch.
the swords, please.
They didn't talk about swords yet.
They're
There's
keeping
nothing
it
about
under
swords.
wraps. That's the hope. Keeping it under wraps.
Lightsabers coming soon. Uh, Anyway, they've been also working on optimizing AI systems for performance and collision avoidance for AI ships, especially in tight maneuvering spaces where they're like a collision box isn't appropriate or what do you call it? Can't do it just because there's not enough room. Art team characters. They've got a couple armor sets coming in 315. I don't have we seen them? I don't think we've seen them unless
Well, we
one of
got
them
the
is
RRS.
yeah, one of them's RRS, I assume. And then 2 helmets coming for Subflare at the end of the year that they're working on. The ship showdown prizes, so whatever the skins and whatnot are. And then there's costume packs for Pyro that they're working on.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Um,
heard the Ship Showdown skin color is supposed to be blue and white. Is that right?
I haven't heard.
You mean orange, right?
Is it supposed to be orange and white?
Well,
Is the
Argo.
Argo?
No, I know, but I thought that before a winner was even chosen, they had already like picked
You're talking about the
colors.
skin, not the
Yeah, the
backpack.
skins. No, I'm not talking about the backpack.
Oh
The
no,
skins.
yeah, I would imagine that because we saw white and purple with a little hint of gold a couple years ago. Last year, of course, we saw the white and gold. So I can definitely see white and blue being an option. I haven't heard
Awesome.
anything myself, but it makes sense.
Yeah. What were we on? Art ships. The ships team they completed the Ares final art. Great. The vultures moved through gray box. The interior is done. They're finishing the exterior. Hull C had numerous details finalized. Hull A is approaching final white box review. There were a number of other ships that they mentioned that have moved through the pipeline, but they're unannounced ships that they keep referring to. They don't refer to what they are, they just call them unannounced ships. I assume one of them, since this is the September report, was the 400i because
And
it moved
the
to full completion.
Liberator, I would imagine.
The way they were describing it was moving. These are ships that are moving through the pipeline. So Liberator might have been one of them. You're right.
I wonder if
Uh,
X1 could be in there.
Possibly because it's due in 317. No, sorry, I'm thinking the Scorpius.
Yeah.
Sorry, completely. Uh,
There's no release date on the X1 right now, but I mean,
no.
with the release of the 400i, I
Yeah,
would
it could be
really
a
hope
surprise.
that would push them to finally come out with it.
That might be
Right?
why they didn't sell it because maybe they're waiting to sell it at IAE.
Possible.
Yeah, we'll see.
Corsair. Corsair.
I would not disagree
Well,
with you. I would love my Corsair to be available.
the Ares Inferno and the Ares Ion and the Redeemer, all three of those are supposed to be arriving at a IAE as well. So,
Hmm.
how many ships do you think they're going to try to dump in the game at once?
But to answer your question, JScale, I think everything's expanding for them, right? Like the player base is expanding, their income is expanding, the teams are expanding, everything's expanding.
Well, even
So if
their
they end up
studios are expanding.
right, so if they end up releasing more than any previous year, that would actually just be in line with what we've seen in a certain way.
Hmm.
True, but they also are still having issues with downstream teams, upstream, like work handoff. So you'll see in a lot of their postmortems that you'll see, I bet you'll see it in 315. You definitely saw it in 314 where there were issues where teams weren't ready for work and so things got had to put on hold and had to go back and there was a lot of
But
juggling of things.
we did go through like, the whole COVID, everything.
Yeah, and I'm sure that played a part into it. And
Right.
I was just gonna say, player engagement's actually dropping for pretty much everybody since COVID restrictions are being released, so people are able to get out and do more. So
yeah,
that's a counter to that.
Oh, but once the wipe happens, trust me, everyone's gonna be jumping back in.
Features, character and weapons. They spent a lot of time bug fixing and quality of life improvements for the inventory, kind of like speeding up the performance, and they're still doing that now, I guess. There was some I didn't quite get it. It was cryptic stuff about the logic for actor control state, which I don't know. I don't know what that was about. Um, Gameplay, support for knickknacks. There's a lot of stuff that was support for 315 and IAE basically for this team, and then some look ahead work that they're doing so that we can start selling things at shops, future cargo rework, and jump down version 2. And the last part was under features was the vehicle team. They did work on jump points. I think that's part of what we saw at the Citizencon. They're even testing party jumping, so kind of like the group quantum jumping or quantum leaping. Um, get it?
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so what?
Said, oh, nice. Name drop.
um, they worked on some new animations for the Hull C. Obviously, they were doing some bomb testing so that we could get it in our hands. And then future release stuff, they're looking at turret improvements, research and development on missile tuning and balancing, as well as operator mode enhancements and build out. So they want to keep I think expanding operator mode because they added what bombs to that.
Yep.
I wonder. I'm not sure how the mining as in mining space with explosive mines, how that's going to work because that is on the progress tracker where they are working on mines. It was actually attached to the bombs at one point. They separated it out, and then they were working on intoxication mode, piloting and driving,
Which we're
which
getting plenty of practice with now with griefers.
we're testing.
And operator mode enhancements are going to matter for tractor beam use as well eventually.
I think it will
True.
when you look at the Caterpillar and the other ships that are going to have tractor beam capabilities. Yeah, definitely. Especially with the inventory changes, and we're going to have to be manually loading everything onto the ship instead of it just snap and magically appearing.
Yeah, that's why I have the 315, just for that nose tractor beam. It's going to be so precision and so easy to use.
Until we make you drunk and you just crash it all over the cargo deck.
Well, that's true. But I'll do it in style.
There you go. In style and beauty in your origin ship. So, all right. So that brings us pretty much to the end of everything we have to go over this week. Of course, this is a weekly show that we'll be doing with all the latest news. We did miss last week because of Citizencon, but please join us every Sunday as the new episode will release each week. And if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to submit for us to address on air, definitely hit us up on the Twitch Whispers, the Twitter, Instagram, or you can email me directly at darkhourexperience@gmail.com. And we'd be happy to answer any questions, as well as you can submit them on the community tab on the YouTube page. And don't forget to catch our streams every Sunday and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. over on Twitch. As we have moved over to solely streaming on Twitch, join us. And I think this week we'll definitely test out that drunk Daymar rally first leg. That sounds like it should be fun. And Mando beat me last time, so I have to kick his ass this time. So we'll give
Was it
that.
Mando or Yeti?
No, Yeti was doing support. Yeti blew everybody away because he had been running so many practice runs with GII. But Mando just sneaked past me at the last moment, so I gotta come in better than last. So
Bring some oxygen pens.
Yeah, I'll definitely need to do that this time because I had to stop for oxygen. But now we're gonna have to stop to get re-intoxicated. So
we'll need a few Cliff Bars.
There you go. But I want to thank J-Scale for all your work and everything that you put in with all the content, as well as Tainted and Bright. Thank you for joining us this week. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to be here. And everybody, I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we will catch you next time.